So this is going to be the last in a series that I'm doing on being at peace. I think this is the 8th or the 9th. It's the longest series that I've ever done. But I'm just going to give you a quick refresher as to where we've been in being at peace before we get on to tonight. In the first week, we looked at the idea that in order to be at peace, our very being needs to be at peace. So it's our being at the center of us that needs to be at peace. We can't control the chaos of the world. We can only bring ourselves into the peace of the present moment and deal with each moment from a perspective of the peace that's within us until it arrives. And then we looked at the chaos of the world and the lack of peace there and explored the way human consciousness has evolved to a point where nowadays, it's not going to do us any good to get smarter. The smartness of us is not what's required anymore. We don't need any smarter weapons and things like that. For a more peaceful need, what's needed is not technological advancement, but the development of the wisdom to see the true nature of reality and respond to it appropriately. And it's through ethical and moral spiritual development that we'll survive. We then looked at truth. We had a whole section on truth in an age where there are alternative facts. And by the way, if you want to catch up on these and you think, I've missed that, I must go back and watch it, the red card in front of you will show you how to get to the previous talks. And if you want to be on our mailing list, that's the blue card. So having looked at alternative facts, we then looked at resting in peace, being at peace with our death while we're still alive, and therefore being at peace with life by having death on our journey with us. So, we looked at that thing. And then we looked at the stages that we individually go through as we move inwardly towards the peace of our being. And we used meditation as an example of that. And just to give you a refresher, the worst point in not being at peace is to be what I called off with the fairies, which is when you're in meditation and you're just thinking about lunch or whatever it is, and right, I'm meditating. And the next one, we then let that go, and the next one is where you think how marvelous it is that I'm doing meditation for the good of the world and for the good of everybody else. And we suddenly realize we're thinking about, meditation in a context of what we're doing, so we let go of that. And then the next thing is where we're just aware of our breath. And of course, we are being aware of our breath, so our mind is active, and we let go of that just into a state of being. So we looked at those 4 different stages that go into that. And then we talked about war and how to move towards some sort of intention for world peace. Covered all the important subjects here. And then we looked at the need to make peace with everything that's around us. We had to make peace with our minds, our circumstances, everything that's there. And last week, we talked about making peace with our bodies. It's important to not fight our bodies, which a lot of us tend to do. And today I want to talk about peace and harmony. And, I didn't know where this was going to end, this sort of series, but it's just sort of came to me that the end point of peace is harmony. And really, that's where you get to when you have that aspect of peace within you. Harmony from the Greek word harmon, meaning joint or accord. To be in harmony is for the mind and body and spirit to be in accord and then joined with the universe. So it's a complete joining of our experience. And this is actually the end of one series and kind of the beginning of the other, because I don't know if you know, but throughout the summer, when the music festival starts, we're going to have festival musicians here every week throughout the whole summer. So right away from June the 30th, when the festival starts, all the way through to August the 18th, when the festival closes. We'll have festival musicians playing here every week. And so the theme that I'm going to be using throughout the whole summer is harmony, is looking at harmony in all its forms. And so this is really the beginning and the end of these 2 series. So why the connection between peace and harmony? Well, of course, the reason lies in quantum physics, quantum mechanics. And I'm going to show a short film. I have shown this before, and I will show it again in the summer. But it's a 5-minute film that actually shows what quantum mechanics is about. And I just think it's good just to have a refresher of what quantum mechanics is about. And Matt is just going to turn that on. And there we are, it's happening.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double-slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently. As though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
So I just think it's good to get an understanding of what quantum mechanics is. And I'll explain how that links in. I think this film really shows two things. First of all, it shows that everything can behave like a wave pattern. Particles, anything there is, can behave like a wave pattern. That life is made out of the particularity of the individual particle, us, but also is expressed as a wave form. So it's particular and it's a wave form. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I want to point out is that all of it is connected. That the very existence of the observer changes what is going on. Therefore, there is a fundamental connection between everything. And that's, one of the hallmarks of quantum mechanics is the connectivity. When you put the observer in, it changes what's going on. So it means that there is a connection between the observer and what is happening. And that really is what leads us to that spiritual understanding of the interconnectivity of all things. Or as Jesus would put it, I am in the Father, I am within that connectivity. You are in me, in other words, you exist within my field, and I am in you, I exist within your field. And that is the interconnectivity of all things. So the reason I think that peace and harmony always exist together lies in the fact that life exists not only in the particular, but also as a waveform. Think about it. One of the reasons we're affected so much by sound is that it comes to us in a wave form. In fact, so does light. When you're actually listening to those great crescendos in sound and those masterly minor chords that stir the tear ducts, what is happening is a waveform is coming towards us, and we are being affected by that waveform. And similarly with light, light is a waveform, and we're affected by that waveform. In fact, everything in our lives is actually admitted as a wave form. And it's particular, but as quantum mechanics shows, it's also a waveform, and therefore we have the ability to experience that waveform. And that gives us the experience of harmony. The ability to experience the fundamental waveforms that are a part of life, of being joined and of being in accord, as that word from the Greeks expresses it. So the very fact of being at peace with ourselves, because we have that fundamental peace, it enables us to experience that fundamental harmony that we're a part of interconnectedly. That is the harmony that's at the center of all things. And when people have a peak experience, that is an experience from a sense of peace, but also experiencing that interconnectedness of all things. And we're talking here about, first of all, about personal peace. That's what we've been talking about. It's the state at which I can be totally relaxed, at ease, in which my mind and body and heart and soul relax together. It is a state of knowing no fear. Peace is a state of forgiveness It is a state from which love flows freely. It is a state of inner clarity in which I can perceive truth. It is a state in which I'm able to tell the truth without fear of judgment or rejection. Peace is the state where the ego mind is quiet. It is the state in which I know the essence of my consciousness to be the same essence of all conscious beings. When we're in that state, then we're in a place where we can experience that harmony. When we started this course, it came, I don't know if you remember, just after Cynthia Brageau had been here. And the first little quote that I gave was a quote from Thomas Keating's book called Reflections on the Unknowable. And it really was looking at chaos and, in a sense, love or harmony, which is at the center of all things. And this is the quote that I used. We try so hard to put order into our lives and into the cosmos. There is none. Instead, there are lots of comings and goings and ups and downs. In fact, everything at a subatomic level is chaos. Moments of perfect order coalesce only to dissolve again into the thrilling immensity of infinite possibilities, which is what they were showing up there. Love is all because it's nowhere, not in one place, but everywhere. Every form is teeming with life and with various forms of consciousness or no consciousness, like bees swarming in a hive or ants on an anthill. Life on every level is busy. Yet it's doing nothing, remaining for a moment and then quickly passing away, only to be back in another form, in another kind of community, in another chaos. So chaos is our home. It is always becoming and ending and starting anew. Everything moves, but in no particular direction. It's always changing, always becoming something new, always together with everything else, dependent and interconnected, differentiating yet always the same, fusing, wanting, never still, always in relationship with everything. Only love remains. Nothing really matters because everything matters. And it's happening at the same time. Nothing is remembered or forgotten. It's all here at once. Everything is in movement, going nowhere, but enjoying everywhere and everything. This is creation. Endless, delightful, unpredictable, unbelievable, just isness and ising, playing with goodness, beauty, and truth, without purpose, without a plan, without judgment. In perfect peace, in the midst of activity and no activity. To be in a relationship is to accept everything and resist nothing. It welcomes enemies and makes them the best of friends, whether they be people, angels, demons, problems, difficulties, pain, suffering, or desolation. All is in the void, which is the safest place in all creation, where gratitude, freedom, and pure love reign supreme. Now, Cynthia used that as a way of starting to talk about love, and I just want to use it to start to talk about harmony. It's this that we experience in harmony, being at the center of all things. We know that it's all chaos. We experience in our lives, and all the way through this journey of peace, we've come to arrive at that point where we're okay with that chaos, where we can be at peace with that chaos. And with that comes that harmony that welcomes everything from that chaos. We then become part of that chaos. Not the uniform expression that's just one melody. The ego tends to just want to be one melody, one note, our personality. It wants to be that melody. It always wants. When I used to be in the choir, I was a soprano. And I could never sing harmony. I always had to sing the tune. Because I could never, my mind could never let in anything else. It only ever wanted to sing the tune. And the ego's like that. It always just wants to sing its tune all the time, its melody. and to have its melody being there. We're not talking about that uniform expression, but a huge diversity that goes to make up harmony, and the rhythms that this diversity creates within the harmony. Rhythm and harmony together. We become that love in harmony that Thomas Keating speaks about. He said, go back, this is creation, endless, delightful, unpredictable, unbelievable, just isness and ising, playing with goodness, beauty, and truth, without purpose, without a plan, without judgment, in perfect peace, in the midst of activity and no activity. Harmony. We become like an instrument that is played by the divine. We become like an instrument that is played by the divine. When our mind gets out of the way in that piece, we fall into becoming an expression of the divine. And again, you hear the same quotes all the time, but that quote from Thomas Merton, and it expresses that. God utters me like a word containing a partial thought of himself. A word will never be able to comprehend the voice that utters it. But if I'm true to the concept that God utters in me, if I'm true to the thought of him I was meant to embody, I shall be full of his actuality. I will find him everywhere in myself and find myself nowhere. I shall be lost in him. That is, I shall find myself. I shall be saved. The idea of being lost in music, that harmony that exists there. That's the harmony that we're talking about here. By making peace with our world in all its forms, making peace with the mind, with the body, with circumstances, with people, with our past, with our future. By making peace with all of it, we come into that present moment and we experience harmony. Again, that quote I used a few weeks ago from Thich Nhat Hanh. Our true home is the present moment. To live in the present moment is a miracle. The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth in the present moment, to appreciate the peace and beauty that are available now. Peace is all around us in the world and in nature and within us. It's in our bodies and our spirits. And once we learn to touch this peace, we will be healed and transformed. It's not a matter of faith, he says, it's a matter of practice. We only need to find ways to bring our body and mind back to the present moment so that we can touch what is refreshing, healing, and wondrous. Harmony. To be in the present moment is to be totally at harmony with what is going on. I always think it's interesting. I'm glad we've got Mac here because Mac uses that harmony in his music therapy of the Rockies. I mean, that is a non-profit. The tag of his non-profit is saving lives with songs. And it is through that harmony that you arrive at peace. It shows that not only do we reach harmony through peace, but we can reach peace through harmony. I think that's so interesting. It's both. It is through the immersion in that harmony that they arrive at that point of peace within themselves. So it's a two-way street. And we know that peace when we experience those perfect harmonies of Bach and Beethoven and Simon and Garfunkel. There's a peace in that. You know, when you listen to the Boxer, or you go, wow, we just feel that harmony there. We rest in the harmonies and they bring us peace. Harmony is the rightness of being together. It is the rightness of being together. And you can only arrive at that harmony from a place of peace, not one that insists on this note or that note. And by hearing perfect harmony, we also arrive at the point of perfect peace. This is where I bring in the new seekers. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. Of course, that's a Coca-Cola, but that's neither here nor there. But it really is that is the sense of that. You know, you can get enlightenment from those pop songs. And so, you know, we end this search for peace in that place of harmony. We're a part of that wave in quantum mechanics. We flow as both a particularity and a wave. And we receive with a particularity and a wave. And what we do affects others. And what we do as a wave and as a part, it affects others. It really brings us back to being that drop in the ocean. Each of us can try to make our individual mark or realize that we are a part of a much greater ocean. And the ebb and the flow of that ocean takes us out with the tide and brings us back again in that experience of harmony. It is that harmony with the ocean that comes when we are at peace with ourselves. And it is the harmony that brings us the joy that comes when we truly give up to all that is around us. More of this during the summer. Thank you. Just always give people an opportunity to just come back on what I've said or anything like that. Does anybody have anything they want to add or share at all? Yes, Justin, and then, yeah.
I just heard in your description of the root of harmony, of joinder and joining, I heard a synonym with yoga and the Sanskrit word of union. And it's interesting to me that these two cultures spread apart so far. We're getting at the same fundamental union of things. And to me, it elevates this idea that the Greeks had, that harmony may be at the center of these things. I think the Indians were onto something there.
Yeah, harmony may be at the center of something. I think that's great. And I mean, that's really where we're going into, I think, next. And I think that's quite interesting. Thank you for that. Yes, Mac.
When we introduce psychotherapy at our retreats, one of the things we like to point out is, this was from Julia Bretas, that's where I've seen this quote come from, that if you are anxious, you're in the future. If you're depressed, you're in the past. And if you're at peace, you're in the present.
Yes, that's lovely. Thank you, Mike. That's beautiful. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Yeah.
Good morning. We are not in Wichita. I so appreciate being here. I've been homeless now for 215 days. And I guess Catholic Charities are going to get me a train ticket back home to Whitefish, Montana. So my papa, he's 94 and doing good, said, come on home. I'm the prodigal son. So, I mean, I had they got my savings account in Galveston, and so they took out $11,000 and took my passport, another $1,600 and cigarettes, and left me with, nothing. So I was homeless there for 160 days, and then I wrap it up. But the tweakers stole everything. They sold 17 pairs of shoes. And the chaplain said, Montana, we're not getting any more shoes. You don't care. And it's like, they said, hide underneath your blanket. Well, they steal your blanket. They steal your food. So I feel for them, because you can't rip off your fellow man. And there is karma, I believe, but far be it for me to judge, and I have no resentment. But my dad is, he goes by Jubilee now, so Reverend Dr. Jubilee James William Cavender, and he's performed many services here. Many weddings, and he was in Basalt and Carbondale, Montana, and Thomasville. We moved up here from 1963. So I was 8 years old, and we just came from Corsicana, Texas. My grandfather, I know, was a cotton farmer, and they were racist, but that's how it was. So I'm so glad we came to Colorado, and thank you.
Thank you so much. That's great. Thank you. Brilliant. Anybody else like to say anything at all?